Hi, I'm Laurence Cawley, and in my project After, I've been looking inwards at my own experience of maternal abandonment as a child and being raised solo by my dad. Now, I've increasingly realised that this is also a work of mourning. The loss of my mother has been a kind of singular death that's permeated so much of my early life. Now, Jacques Derrida speaks of the singularity of the unique death that mobilises everything everywhere and that pluralises itself and is itself everywhere. How do you tell a story like this? Well, for me, the use of metaphor has been absolutely central, as has the fetishistic object, the subtle disturbances, colour, broken triangles, and the child's view looking downwards or upwards and of things not quite being what they seem. And shifts in colour too, reflecting Alex Soth sleeping by the Mississippi, whose tones gently warm from the chilly blues and light hues of the northern United States to the much warmer oranges and reds found in the south. And he's using this to give this feeling of movement through physical space. In my own work, there's a drift from pinks all the way through to the darkest blues, and I'm hoping that that's hinting more at the passing of time and of the gender role fluidity of the lone father. I've periodically used the motif of the child's storybook, and these are the only images in which my mother in some way is present, though through her negation, that maternal figure overlaid with fragments of a letter I received from her far later in life. And these images, I hope, anchor the work. They're created by an adult, but they are ultimately the memories of a child and of significant things and significant moments. And I think they tell of the psychology of loss and of yearning and of a desperate need, really, to belong. Key influences on this work have been Rinko Kawauchi, who, for me, as Søren Schumacher puts it, she merges reality with the spiritual world. And she's just a master of visual metaphor, creating these visual binaries, placing two poetic metaphors, placing them side by side. They then become a third, while still managing to enrich both. And then there's also Philip Toledano's work, When I Was 6, which tells of his sister's very, very short life. She died aged 6. And these items are kind of monumentalised, and their physicality is a kind of gateway into the emotional memory. Equally influential has been the output of my own children, Emma and Tom. Their early pictures reveal the matterings in their world, nearly always shown either from above or from below. It's that viewpoint of a child that I've just found so fascinating. Have I been successful in this project? Well, sometimes. There's been an image called The Knife and the Worm, and it was suggested to me that the hint of danger and anger might be better represented by a knife sort of stabbed into a table, but it didn't really ring true with me, because that's not the suppressed rage of a hurting child. The young and wounded me was actually often sort of scared to express those more difficult feelings, and they'll find their sort of outlets for anger in what are often seemingly safe ways, such as smashing the keys of a xylophone so hard to experience the pleasure and release of seeing those same keys jump up from their pins. But are these feelings communicated effectively through the images, such as the knife or the xylophone? Well, possibly not, but both seem to have evoked something in the viewers that they've had. Until I become sort of more refined as a photographer, I'm going to settle with ambiguity. Then for me, there's been the issue of text. It's been a perennial headache. Now, my image is a sort of visual response to a novel that was penned by my father during the early nights when I was young. And in that, I was particularly interested in Art Spiegelman's project Mouse, not just because it combines that sort of father's testimony, in that case the Holocaust, with art's imagery, but because of the way he's managed to combine the two. It reveals this, what Marianne Hirsch refers to as the oppositions between documentary and aesthetic, testimony and fiction. Sol Worth, in Pictures Can't Say It, makes the point that there is no pictorial means that a painter has of indicating that a colour, a shape, or an object is not something or anything else. All that pictures can show, he says, is what's on the picture's surface. Pictures can't, he claims, deal with negation. For me, I'm battling with that one because the images that I've produced so far correspond to this hazy mixture of emotional states. But the key element really is that maternal absence, which I've tried to show through negative space, but also through sizing and distance. What grounds them to reality, I believe, though, is my father's words. And I've really benefited from the input from webinar colleagues and our tutor who found early versions of the text too descriptive. I hope the current result is a little more suggestive. So where does all this lead? Well, this is very personal work and I don't believe it has, nor would I really want a big audience for it. I do want to make a small handmade box book, a bit like a Pandora's box that contains a series of postcards, which the viewer can then just scatter and rearrange. Now I'd like to make about 20 or so of these handmade boxes and just see where it goes. In a similar vein, there's only really one exhibition that I'm interested in, and that's getting it shown in Jaywick. It's a place where so many people have shared their souls with me through my sort of work for the BBC, and I really want to now do the same in return. And the main pub in Jaywick, that's agreed to host it. I think there are quite a few editorial possibilities actually with this work, and I'm very keen to see if I can get it placed in a magazine like Psychology Today, ideally as a sort of the series of the pictures given its focus on childhood trauma. I'd also really love to sort of engage with charities that actually provide support for children with mental health issues and perhaps dealing with things like marital breakdown. And I do wonder whether in those kind of circumstances, that original idea of the sort of box book containing the postcards that can be rearranged, they might actually have some kind of usefulness to such children